We're talking about Hagar and Ishmael today. Hey guys, welcome to another episode. I was gone for a week last week, but I am back. Thank you for hanging in there. I don't know if you missed me. Maybe you did. But anyway, we are back to talking about Hagar and Ishmael. Isn't that so cool? So we thought we might never hear about them again, but no, we are. And I mean, we're going to still kind of keep seeing the effects of it in the future. I don't want to give anything away yet. So Sarah just had Isaac. They're so excited. This jumps to a part when Isaac has been weaned now, and they're like celebrating, basically, I don't know, maybe a birthday party of some sorts. And so they're celebrating Isaac, and Ishmael at this point now is probably, maybe 7 or 8. And Hagar's still there. They came back. So there was that story of Sarah when Hagar was pregnant. She kicked her out because she was jealous, and Hagar was kind of taunting her and thinking that she wasn't a good enough woman because she couldn't bear a child. Anyway, the drama. She was sent away, but God sent her back. So she's still with them. But this time, Ishmael is laughing. I guess maybe at Isaac, or laughing at the situation, laughing at everybody, and Sarah gets annoyed again, and she doesn't like it. And she also doesn't want Ishmael to share in like the birthright and get everything that Isaac would have gotten or will get. So again, she talks to Abraham, and she's like, I don't want them here anymore. So Abraham packs her up, sends her out. And so now Hagar and Ishmael again are out in the wilderness. They eat everything up, drink everything up, and she's alone again with her child dying of starvation or lack of thirst. Lack of water. And so she puts him under a bush and walks away waiting for him to die, which is so sad for a mother to have to go through. So depressing. That is like, that's got to be one of the most painful things to deal with. Being sent out and now just waiting for your son to die and out of his misery. But God, in his mercy, doesn't let that happen. And so a voice of God comes to Hagar, and he tells her that he hears the son's cries. He hears Ishmael. And I'm sure he also hears Hagar's cries. He hears them both. And he opens her eyes to show her a well. And they're basically saved. So then they go from there, and he promises again. Before Abraham shipped them off, God talked to Abraham, and he's like, go ahead and ship them off. Because they're going to become a great nation. Because he's still from the line of you, and it's an extension of my promise. But Isaac's still going to be the promised one, but Ishmael is still going to be a great nation. And so he says the same thing to Hagar in this moment. That he's like, don't worry, I've got you guys. I have a promise for you guys as well. So Hagar gets back up, gets her son. They probably just have plenty of water to drink, and then they start wandering around in the area of Paran. So I'm going to put up another picture to try to depict what area they are. They were in Beersheba. They stopped at Beersheba, where the whole thing happened with the well. And I believe that's on Abraham's land, because we'll see in the next chapters that something happens at Beersheba, and I think that's how it got its name. So it's interesting, I think, because the writer of these books is Moses, who comes way later. He's talking about the things that have happened in the past. And so I think what's happening here is he talks about different places with their current names and talks about what happens there before maybe it got its name, and then it'll show how it actually got its name. Does that make any sense? So at the time, I don't know if it was called Beersheba to Hagar and Ishmeal, but to this day, to the day that Moses was talking about, it was called Beersheba. So he had to give everybody show them where it was. And then he tells later of actually how it got its name in the timeline. Anyway, does that make any sense? Oh well. Okay, so anyway, moving on. So Sarah and Ishmael are saved. They wander around Paran, something. And she gets for him a wife from Egypt because she's from Egypt. She is from when Abraham and Sarah first came to Egypt, and they lied about that whole situation. And then the Pharaoh sent them with a bunch of stuff to leave, and I think they got a servant. One of the servants is Hagar from there. Anyway, so let me go ahead and just read the chapter then. So we're in Genesis 28, 8 through 21. And the child grew and was weaned. This is talking about Isaac. And Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned, but Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had bore to Abraham, laughing. And she said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac." And the things were very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, "Be not displeased because of the body, and because of the boy, not the body, because of the boy, and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you, for through Isaac shall your offspring be named." So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and skin. Took bread and skin, and I keep losing my place, guys. I can't read. And did I skip that part? "And I will make a nation for the son of the slave woman, also because he is your offspring." I think I read that. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and skin of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulders along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat opposite him a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot. For she said, "Let me not look on the death of my child." As she sat opposite him, she lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, "What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the boy where he is. Up, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew up, and he lived in the wilderness and became an expert with the bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. Oh, wow. So, this is also an interesting because, so I talked about how Hagar, her name basically means wandering or alone or castaway, something like that. And Ishmael, his name, very interesting, means God will hear. And it's so interesting that in the passage it says, "And God heard the voice of the boy." It was basically, Ishmael his name was almost the promise of what was going to happen to him, that God will hear him. And I think that's just beautiful. I don't think names are as beautiful and as significant nowadays as they used to be. They used to be used for either the promises to come or things that happened. But it may not be always a beautiful thing. Sometimes there's like distress around the child, and so he's born with a sad name almost. But it's still like a sign of either things to come or things that have been. So it's very interesting, and I think it's very beautiful. So that's Hagar, that's Ishmeal, and we're gonna see, look, there's a squirrel in the background. And we're gonna see how God uses Ishmeal and his nation in the future, and what's gonna happen there. So this has been a little bit of a longer one, not too long, but I'm gonna let you guys go. I hope this was another interesting video for you guys. Maybe one day you'll name your children after some significant things. I'm thinking I might want to name my child Ishmeal. God hears. I think it's beautiful. Anyway, have a great rest of your week, guys, and I will see you in the next video.